man, you know what? I've got raisins in front of me. Raisins are tempting. Raisins actually bought in Iceland.
Nice. That elevates raisins from normal raisins.
Well, I mean, it was one of those things where we were going on a day trip. We bought snacks because we were going to be on the bus for a long time to go out to one of the geyses or whatever we went and saw. And
I think we should. Yeah. Oh, sorry. That's not the. Yeah. Go on.
Well, we bought raisins because we didn't get to eat them because we had other snacks that were more exciting.
That's why I interrupted you, because I just assumed the end of that was, and then we bought some raisins. I think we should start. We should do a nothing but static and just start mid conversation for an episode, and give the listeners the intensity of the story about you buying raisins.
I mean, it was very exciting. I was on holiday, bought raisins. I'm going to try and read the whole story.
I'm pretty excited. Welcome to Stephen University.
That feels wrong. That feels inherently wrong. Should I do the normal as well? So that way,
I'll do it as well. Yeah,
everyone wins.
Everyone's happy.
Exactly. All right.
And by everyone, I mean you and I, who wanted the raisins, and everyone else who didn't.
Yeah. That. Okay, let's do it in the traditional style. Hello and welcome to Stephen University. This week we discussed Same Old World, and as always, we are now going to switch to Chris, who will talk while I eat raisins.
Right. So Same Old World begins immediately after the drama of last week. Peridot is telling the story, and then she switches to Stephen to give him some credit, which is a very sweet moment.
Yes. Stephen's
all distracted. He wanders off. He looks at Lapis, who is asleep and knackered. And he's like, what?
I just love that after Garnet explaining the emotional turmoil, the physical exertion of keeping a fusion, you're just like, he sees Lapis, who's a bit knackered.
Well, she's,
I mean, it's not wrong, but it's also not right.
We all work hard, you know what I mean?
Sorry, it's just when they spend so much time explaining how it will leave her mentally bereft and all that stuff, and you just...
I got in...
Demoted tired.
I got in late last night, I'd had a bit to drink, I'm still up and working, just get over it is all I'm saying. I actually thought I was going to be in a much worse position today. So I thought about sending you a video and getting you to watch it during this and overlay it onto the episode of me and my buddy Steve dancing to a Christmas moving reindeer that sings Twist and Shout. I'm
assuming this video does not exist, or you would have sent it me.
No, it does. No, it does. It does.
Okay, I'll tell you what we'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if it's okay with you, Chris, we'll just tag it at the end.
Yeah, we'll tag it at the end.
So basically, at the end of this podcast, it'll end like normal, and then stick around, and you can see a video. This is just for the YouTube people, by the way. If you're listening to this on iTunes, quickly switch over to YouTube if you want to see that. And there'll be a video of Chris apparently drunk, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah. Lots of white. Wait, I love milkshakes. I love vodka. I never knew until last night that White Russian was basically a combination of the two, and had me some White Russian fun.
Well, we went in Iceland. I was recently in Iceland. We went to a bar that was based on the Big Lebowski, and obviously they drink White Russians in the Big Lebowski. They had a White Russian menu of dozens and dozens of different kinds of White Russians you could order that they adjusted and named after like characters and references to the film.
That's cool.
And quotes. It was very strange.
So stick around and watch that.
Right. So carry on.
So
Lapis is knackered.
Lapis is lazing around, quite frankly.
She's not contributing to the storytelling time.
Yeah. She's tired. So Stephen has a kip, and then they decide to pack up the barn. Peridot is staying to fix the hole in the wall, which I thought was quite funny. So Mr. Universe packs up the van, and they're all off. And then Stephen says goodbye to Lapis, who is going to. She says she's just going to go back, and she floats off. And I was at this point, I was like, wow, they've raced through a lot here. And I went, surely Lapis can't go home because she was technically a bit of a traitor and stuff. Odd. And then Stephen's like, I'm going to get Lion and come back online. They're like, okay, he's calling out for line, and then he sees Lapis is still there, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, that makes more sense. So he goes up the tower, and he says that, there's plenty to explore on Earth. Let's find you somewhere to stay. So they look at the countryside. They look at Empire City, which is essentially New York. Then this show joins one of the many TV shows and movies that shit on Jersey a little bit by saying that they're all like robots and traffic and stuff. It's not that bad, but I was just watching it like, man, why does Jersey get so much shit?
Honestly, I was laughing so hard at that bit where Stephen turns to Lapis. I was going to talk about this later. I don't want to interrupt your thing, but my favourite line in the whole episode is when he says to Lapis, "You'd like it in Jersey. The people there seem to hate the Earth too."
Yeah. I was just like, wow, like, okay.
And it's weird. I'm having a bit of a shitting on Jersey morning as well, because I was listening to Hamilton this morning. The musical from Lin-Manuel Miranda. I was listening to the soundtrack, and there's literally a bit in it where they're gonna have like a duel. And they're like, we'll do it in New Jersey. Everything's legal in New Jersey. I just thought that was a really good line.
I mean, it's a real punching bag, it seems.
It does seem to have become one, doesn't it? Yeah, anyway, carry on.
So they go back, and Lapis decides she is going to stay. Stephen... Oh, no. They end up at the warps, and Lapis sort of tells her origin. She tells her story, which is crazy, because I can't really remember where she is when we first meet her in this.
She was in a mirror.
Do they? Huh? Yes, right. But they, and that's why it's Pearl picking up the mirror. That's it. Cool, fine. I just couldn't quite remember.
But if you remember rightly, it's really interesting because we had a big debate at the time. Not a debate like we disagreed, but we had an interesting discussion about whether Pearl and the other crystal gems knew the mirror was also a gem that was trapped, or whether they'd stumbled across it and just assumed it was a gem artifact.
That's it.
Because Lapis hated them so much that you almost wondered when she first came out if they'd known she was there and she knew that they'd known. But in fact, actually, probably what we learn in this episode is that's not the case. I'll let you take over.
Yeah, it's clear, I think, from the origin that they thought that she was an artifact, like others had done. So she gets quite emotional, nearly drops Stephen, tells the story. Now she wants to be awake and telling stories. God. And they go back, and she decides that she doesn't want to live at the barn. She wants to stay on Earth, and then Peridot appears and is like, "Hey!" And those two are like, "What?" And get confused about each other. And then they start bickering, and Stephen looks nervous.
Because she decides she wants
spin-off.
She decides
Peridot
she
and
wants.
Lapis at the barn.
Well, yeah, but Jess was going to say, because she... Well, I felt like a lot of this episode felt like it was trying to set up a spin-off that was never going to happen. My favourite part to that was when Stephen took Lapis to Empire City, and he was like, you could have an apartment and a quirky roommate, and I'm like, oh, we're going to see Gem in the City. Is that a new series coming or something?
Yeah, and I couldn't work out. They were trying to it was the perfect culmination of both Seinfeld and Friends, and I was like, well, they're sort of like they're referencing sitcoms in general, but it could have easily been one or the other, which made me laugh because a lot of people debate those two shows in particular, it seems, and have the debate of which one's better and stuff.
It's Friends, but anyway,
yeah, it is Friends.
It's Friends. I think it's what's really interesting about this, and is that basically, obviously they land back, and I think that setup of, so Peridot has decided she's staying at the barn. She likes it there. It's peaceful, and she didn't really have a place to stay. She can't really continue to live in their toilet, in their bathroom. So the idea that she chooses to stay there and then immediately, Stephen is trying to keep Lapis happy and says, there's you'll find your place on this earth. There's somewhere you can stay. There'll be somewhere for you. She decides the barn, and then discovers that Peridot already laid claim to it, half a day earlier or whatever.
Yeah, very funny.
So it's a good setup for presumably some sort of plot going forward. Obviously, I will not say what they do with it or if they deal with it. I'm assuming you probably think they will, because otherwise why would they set it up? But
yeah, I think it's interesting that they kind of they were making it seem and making the setup appear that Peridot was proper joining the gems, and I was thinking, well, will they have to redo the theme tune, all of that kind of thing? Will this upset people that are like, oh, it was better before Peridot, da 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 da? And now they seem to be in a situation where my assumption is we've got Peridot and Lapis in the barn, and we can go back to them as often as we like. But we can also do stories with just the original people and the town folk and all of that kind of thing. And they're there for us to dip into when we fancy, but not necessarily part of the gang.
Yeah, we could. I suppose you could call it lioning the situation. Because remember when Lion showed up and you were like, "Oh, Lion better not be around every week. I can't have every week with a big lion now." And you're like, I hope he just shows up when we need him and when he's relevant. And that's exactly what they've done. So I'm not going to say for sure that's what they do with Lapis and Peridot, but you're probably it's a very reasonable, educated guess.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that your logic is sound. So yeah, but I think it's kind of perfect though. If assuming that is what they do, what you're saying is it leads to being able to have your cake and eat it too. Basically, the setup.
Yeah, it's a very clever setup, very clever way of doing it. I thought there was a lot to like about this episode. I thought Lapis was done very well. It was quite cool to get some of her backstory. It's quite a sad backstory, which I think helps you feel empathy with the character, although they've already done that by what she's been doing for the last few months and stuff.
And we finally get a reasonable explanation for why she hates the crystal gems. I mean, she was caught in the middle of the war. Even then, it sounds like she wasn't really on either side when she was captured by the Homeworld gems, who assumed she was a crystal gem and basically tortured her by putting her in this mirror for information on the crystal gem's whereabouts, which she didn't have because she wasn't a crystal gem. And then when they found her, they just kept her in the mirror. So now her waking up or coming out of that mirror and hating the crystal gems makes perfect sense. Like, they started a civil war.
Yeah, definitely.
That got her tortured, trapped in a mirror, and then they didn't even realize it was a person to help her. So she stayed trapped in a mirror. It suddenly makes her hatred seem a lot of both sides, really, because let's be honest, she's not really been on either side. She's very much been neutral. She's been Switzerland in this situation. She's got no love for either side in this case, and has made that very clear. And I think that's really interesting because her only real link to the characters is her sort of growing friendship with Stephen. And I think that's a really interesting place to set up a character and to put a character.
Yeah, definitely, and there's a lot of room there to develop that further, and there's a lot of room to take that places. I think the right call would be to not take it places right away. Like I said last week, sorry, that was an awful sniff. I apologise. I was trying not to sneeze. Please forgive me. I think the right thing to do is shift. Damn it! Is to shift back to the town and the town folk. Like, give us some Sadie, give us some cool kids, give us some Lars, that kind of thing. And then dip into that a bit more. But it's exciting to know that that's there. And kind of sat there ready. I thought another thing is the animation. I think because I've kind of been intrigued about or almost wanting to see a city in this world for a little while. Because we know it's our world, but it's different kind of. It's not like the idea is this is our world, but our world with a different history, as opposed to it literally this being happening somewhere. So I was intrigued about what cities would look like and if they'd have loads of people and stuff like that. So to see that they did, and to see I just thought that was a really cool visual to see what the cities and the apartments and the traffic looks like in the Steven Universe world. I thought was quite a cool notion. So I was excited to see that.
I'll give you a little tease actually, Chris, because why not? I don't think this is a spoiler as such. But I will say that there is an episode in the not too distant future where we get to spend an episode visiting Empire City.
God damn it, Dan! You spoil everything.
I know. So I'm giving you the location of an episode. I suppose it's not the end of the world, but some people will give me shit for that. But we do get to spend some time in Empire City. There's an episode coming up, not too far away. I won't specify which, but within the not so distant future.
It's not Say Uncle 2 Lost in the City, is it?
how did you guess?
Shit.
No, it's Say Uncle 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Oh God. Ugh. What are some of your other thoughts for the episode?
Yeah, I really like the notion that everyone was just sat around sort of telling the story. I really loved Peridot's reinterpretation of the events when she's all like, and Steven's all, my feelings, and passes out on me. I love that line so much because that's such a like Peridot perspective on Steven's sort of like, emotional sort of positioning. So the way that everything is, it's sort of like the show parodying itself, really. Because we were talking last week and complimenting the show on always making the right choice for the show, which is to go down an emotional route, a character route. Stephen solving the problem, maybe not with fighting, but with his his empathy. And I think that to have them like undercut that slightly by having a homeworld gem sort of like not really get it, like she gets it but she doesn't get it, so she's mocking it. Like I thought that was quite funny and quite nice. So I'll credit to the show there.
I thought one of the other funny lines, and I actually watched this episode just in bed this morning, and Jess was next to me, and I thought maybe we had a turning point because I was like, oh, I'll put headphones on in case you watch it and catch up. And she was just like, honestly, that's not going to happen. Like, just watch it. So I'm watching it, and the line, and it made her laugh, and I was like, oh, maybe I could use that as a hook and convince her to watch the show. Was the bit where he said, Empire City, you know what they say? What happens in Empire City never sleeps. And I thought that was really funny, and then she laughed. And at the end of the episode, I'm like, I like turn over and look at her, and I'm about to be like, so you laughed there. Maybe you should give this show more of a go. And she went, oh, I'm glad that's finished. Jeez, those characters' voices are so annoying. I was like, maybe not.
Dear, oh dear.
Maybe we won't be convincing her anytime soon.
Oh man, you've got a long uphill battle. I reckon it's still winnable, but you are far from.
As I've said before, I reckon it's winnable if we devote. Like, I have to sit her down and be like, right, we've got 4 hours of Steven Universe, and
let's get you into it properly and
tell me how. Yeah. Tell me how you feel after an hour, kind of thing.
You could fit what 5 episodes in an hour, roughly.
Yeah, but I'm not sure the first 5. I think you need like a good 15, 20 to want to keep watching.
I think I think we discussed this as we were going through them, but the first hook point is Giant Woman, which is 12, and then if the point in which you fall completely like in love with the show is usually Ocean Gem, Mirror Gem, which is 25 and 26.
I think I had to wait a bit longer though. I think it took me till Jailbreak and The Return, personally.
I don't know. You were pretty excited talking about.
I was more invested, without a doubt. Like, I don't deny that more. But the point where I'd have continued watching this show, regardless of whether we were doing this or not,
Jailbreak
was Jailbreak and The Return.
Yeah, that's fair.
Other thoughts on this episode?
There's a billboard for Dogcopter, which I thought was neat. Always liking a bit of Dogcopter. You remember Dogcopter, Chris? I'm guessing.
I remember Dogcopter. Yeah. Okay. No, I just had that. I had nothing. I had nothing of value to add. Sorry, you wanted a noise.
Wow.
I had nothing of value to add.
I mean, I don't even know where to start.
What? Dogcopter? I've got no analysis of it, so it's just like, no, I saw it. That was cool. So.
Yeah, no,
okay. You wanted.
During the sort of silhouette flashback thing, which by the way is a styling chosen obviously and nicked from The Answer. I don't know if you remember that's how they depicted showing gems in the past in The Answer.
Vaguely remember that, but no, I knew I'd seen the style before on this show.
So that was the episode where we got the backstory for Garnet, where Ruby and Sapphire met each other and fused for the first time.
Yes, yeah.
And in that episode, it used this weird silhouette style, so it's to be vague enough to not actually reveal what certain gems, I guess, may potentially appear in the future look like. I guess that's the notion. You don't want to settle on gem designs before you're actually introducing more gems. I
like that. I like that style, though. I think it works.
Yeah, it works perfect. It's perfect for flashbacks. You couldn't use it for anything else, but it's perfect for flashbacks. So that if you'd have paid attention in that flashback, you may have noticed, Chris, and you may not. That's fine. That there is a gem in the background that has the same hair as Peridot, meaning there was a Peridot of some description present.
That's cool. That's a nice little nod.
Yeah. Also, with the there's a multicolored flash of light as all the gems are fleeing. All the homeworld gems are fleeing Earth. And it's a multicolored light. The theme of so there's a little music sting they've used whenever the diamonds have been referenced, and 3 colors are very clear. The light is composed of blue, white, and yellow rays.
So we got ourselves some white diamonds coming.
Well, it's certainly we've had hints. I mean, I'm pretty sure that when they went to the moon base, Peridot took Stephen through images of some of the diamonds. I believe she talked about yellow and blue and white diamond there, or maybe
I can't remember what. I know blue exists.
Yeah,
but I can't remember white. But that doesn't mean that might just be me not remember.
Basically there were 4, including I think there's a pink diamond as well. So there you go.
Cool.
But that's just so the idea is maybe it's referencing that with the light, in the way they transport them out. It's probably more a sort of a what's the word I'm looking for? It's more of a I suppose it's more of a metaphorical light than a practical. I suppose it's sort of saying they went back to the diamonds or were summoned back through some sort of technology that was invented by the diamonds. That's probably what they're more hinting at than anything else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, this episode was criticised by fans because there are apparently plenty of moments where both Lapis, Stevens, and Peridot's hair is randomly larger than usual, which is such a bizarre thing for people to get annoyed about. But there you go. That's the thing people were upset about.
Maybe that's why there was a bit. I think I can't remember which bit it was, but there was a bit where Stephen puffs out his chest, and I was like, does he look older? And I wondered whether they were animating him to look a little bit older now. And then I was like, well, maybe that's just my imagination. So maybe that was the big hair. That maybe that's the moment, or one of the moments with big hair, and that's what made me think that.
Yeah, maybe, because what's funny is when it was brought to the attention of Lamar Abrams, who I think maybe storyboarded this episode, that the hair was too big, he answered saying it would be fixed in the next episode, and then included a sketch of both characters with much bigger hair. So that was quite good. Let's have a look.
I think that's an appropriate response for that particular complaint, I must say.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, this show, and we've never had the discussion, and I think one day when we've got more time, we'll go through it, but there is a very interesting discussion about this show that comes up a lot about the art style, and it's this notion of the show being free to go what's known as sort of off-model. So basically, in a lot of TV shows, there's a model that you follow. So Rick is always this much taller than Morty, or Bart is almost this much shorter and this much wider than Homer, or thinner than Homer. Do you know what I mean? There's dimensional rules that you have to abide by to make the world have a consistency. And Rebecca Sugar, the creator of this show, likes the artists to feel free to mould and shift the characters to any shape and style they want to make the images they want to create work. She's a believer in the show having an organic texture like that. And I personally don't mind it. I think it gives the show. I think it gives the animators more freedom, and I think it keeps the show interesting visually. I don't necessarily need Peridot to be the exact same height every episode in terms of comparison to the rest of it. But people have constantly complained. In fact, I'm so tired of hearing the complaints that Peridot seems to be getting smaller as the episodes go on. And I don't know if that's true, but I mean, maybe in some episodes she's been smaller in relation to maybe Steven or something, and people have pointed that out. I don't know. Someone's probably put a whole thesis together on the idea, but it's basically that the different artists all take a different approach to it. And I suppose at some point, Chris, we should have a discussion, unless you just want to have a quick opinion on it and you want to give it now, on whether you don't mind that or not.
I think that if someone asked me to walk around with my hand up every day, then I would do that. But the strain or the difficulty of that would be such that my hand would never be up in the same position or the same height necessarily, or at the same angle rather, every day. It would always fluctuate. And I think, Dan, you could make an argument that because the gems are actually projecting their appearance, maybe it works in a similar way, that the appearance they are projecting will shift and change slightly.
That's very clever. There is one slight flaw in that, which is that the same thing is true of the human characters. But, like, on the whole, that is a very, very good theory.
But they are aging.
There you go.
So,
there you go.
Boom.
Chris,
my fansplaining mind.
Chris just covered it, so no one's allowed to complain about off-model stuff anymore. There you go.
What I liked about that is when I started with, if I was asked to put my hand up all day, in your head you must have been like, where's he going with this?
Well, you know, the thing is, at this point, Chris, we've done this for 5 years, and I've known you for nearly 10 or something. We've known each other a long time now. And in my head, part of me went, "Where's he fucking going with this?" And the other part of my head went, "Probably somewhere reasonable. He's figured this out before he opened his mouth." Because you don't open with, "If I put my hand up in the air every day," without knowing where you're going with that. Because if you don't,
bold,
wow, that's. I'd like to see you talk your way out of that one and make that make sense.
It would have been a bold move.
Yeah, it would have been. So yeah, I had faith. I also thought it was cool that if you notice the dogcopter billboard. Read "Turn Off the Bark," which is a reference, course, to the Spider-Man musical "Turn Off the Dark," which I thought was good. Obviously, one of the reasons Peridot was deciding to stay in the barn was she's going to repair that hole we referenced last week. I'm trying to think of other stuff I made note of. Oh yeah, when Stephen asks Lapis, "Ready, Freddy?" she says, "My name's Lapis," and it's very similar to when he says, "No prob, Bob," at the end of, I believe, Ocean Gem. So yeah, I thought that was very good.
That was a nice callback. Yeah, I did note that one.
Also, apparently, Empire City was referenced in Story for Stephen. You know, with do you remember Marty, his old shitty agent? Apparently, that's where they were going next. They were going to Empire City, or they were going to do some gigs in Empire City. So Empire City specifically has been referenced previously.
Cool.
Yeah, that's one of those weird little things. Oh, the fart noise that both Lapis and Stephen make when someone throws a shoe at them from New Jersey is the same noise they make to each other in Mirror Gem when they're playing around with the mirror. I just thought that was cool as well. They kept
it's a nice touch.
They've kept Lapis's power to show memories through reflective surfaces clear, and they've also kept the visual what happens. So when she goes to do that, her eyes turn into mirrors. Which is exactly what happened in Mirror Gem as well when we first saw her. Yeah, I thought that was a nice little visual touch. They kept that consistent.
Nice consistencies. Yeah.
Yeah, and it does seem like Pearl found the mirror containing Lapis at the Galaxy Warp, which I think she I can't remember if she exactly references that when she hands it to Steven in Mirror Gem, but she maybe does, which is some nice consistency.
Is that the first time? Is that the first time we've seen that particular form of Pearl?
No, see, that is very interesting that you should say that, because my next point was that is the same outfit that Pearl has worn in some of the flashback episodes that we've seen.
Right. Okay.
Some of which I'm not going to name because we haven't seen yet, but Story for Stephen is one of them. And We Need to Talk, which we've also seen, which is where she fuses with Rose. Which, by the way, I want to clarify actually. In an earlier episode, I've been corrected multiple times, and it was one of those weird things where I knew what I meant, but I said the wrong words. Does that make sense? Have you ever done that, where you've had the right object in mind, but you've just given the wrong name for it? Does that make? I can't.
Like you were like, "Should we do a podcast about Steven Universe?" And I meant to say no, but said yes. You know, that kind of
yes. Yeah, I remember that.
The wrong term.
Yeah. You meant no. You had a negative reaction to that idea, but for some reason the word that tumbled out of your mouth was yes, please.
Yeah.
So I did it.
No way I said please, but yeah.
Yeah, but no, please. I wouldn't. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, so basically we talked about the temple that they live in, and that it looks like a fusion of many gems, like potentially, amethyst, rose, garnet, pearl. Maybe that's what they all look
Yeah.
like fused together. And I referred to it as rainbow quartz, which is incorrect. It's actually not officially canonically been named yet. Rainbow quartz is what rose and pearl are called when they fuse together.
Okay, right, fine.
So I mixed it up and everyone got real mad. And
Yeah.
I
I apologise on behalf of Dan.
yeah, it's my fault. But I will say that like the unofficial name that's been attached to images of the gem that makes up the temple in that statue is obsidian, which is a real life very cool stone thing, which I actually
That's cool.
I actually saw in real life and touched recently. It's extraordinarily smooth.
Yeah,
obsidian.
That's good to know.
Oh, just a weird thing. Went to a rock
Cool.
museum. Don't know why.
Was that in Iceland?
Was in Iceland.
Fucking hell, Dan, we get it. You've been to Iceland.
I know. I knew you were going to make that joke, which is why I didn't reference the fact it was in Iceland.
Stop banging on about it.
Another little cool nod to a previous previous
Northern
episodes.
Lights. We've all seen lights, Dan. Jeez. I'll get some film. Put them over my lights. Make them multicoloured, okay? Jeez.
I really tried not to bring it up. You made that a thing and then shot me for it.
Just, you know.
Anyway,
I've been to Iceland. The shop, but you know.
yeah.
got some
Which there's a joke that won't work for Americans because I'm pretty sure they don't have
frozen
Iceland.
food. Yeah, but there's one British listener that gave a weary smile. That'll do.
Well, it's funny because in my little calendar, when I put in that I was in Iceland during those dates, so I knew not to like book anything in podcasts or whatever, in that time. I wrote going to Iceland, then I put brackets, not the shop, because I just felt that was
No one needs to spend 3 days in the shop.
yeah. No one needs to spend a week walking around
yeah.
Iceland, which for those who don't know is it's like a frozen goods store in the UK where you can buy like frozen pizza and all sorts of shit that's no good.
It's a supermarket, but everything's frozen.
Yeah.
Basically.
With a couple of exceptions, like above some of the freezers, they do have like cereal and a bit of bread, maybe. But like most things, in that shop are frozen.
you could do all your food shopping in there if you were so inclined.
But you'd have a lot more frozen stuff than you would if you went to any other supermarket.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
let's. I've got a couple more points, and we'll wrap this up because I feel like this has gone on too long, Chris. Stephen has his hot dog duffel bag, which we obviously first were introduced to in the short unboxing when he unboxed the hot dog duffel bag. So I thought it was nice they've kept the consistency that he still has the duffel
I
bag.
thought that was cool.
He's sleeping in the same caterpillar sleeping bag that we first saw in Space Race. And in another reference to Space Race, there's a sign there's still a sign hanging about that says UUU space travel, which was Universe and Universe's space travel, or Universal space travel, or something like that. Can be seen that was seen in the back of the barn. Obviously, that was first seen in Space Race, and it was then also seen again in Back to the Barn. And is clearly still there. This number of episodes later.
Cool. Again, just a nice continuity touch.
Yeah, the show's full of that stuff. Really full of that stuff. Some good things. Some good continuities, Chris. All the continuities.
All the continuities coming out to play.
Coming out to play. They're everywhere, mate. Continuities up the wazoo. Out the
I don't
wazoo?
know what that means.
Is it out the wazoo? Is this another one of those phrases that you don't...
Possibly.
Yeah, okay. I've just double checked. Out the wazoo is a phrase, not up the wazoo.
Okay, cool.
Oh no, both.
Cool.
Up the wazoo or out the wazoo. Oh man, it literally has both when you Google it. Awesome. All right, I'm not. It just means in great
I love
quantities.
this because obviously recently an episode has gone up where we debated the phrase "get him out of Dodge," and I love you because you were cockily messaged me like, other people have heard of it. Like the phrase is originated because of the Dodgers, a team in America, and I was like, well, that's how most of our listeners are American, so that's why they've heard of it. Yeah.
It's said a lot. It's well.
It's fine.
Well, now we can expect another. Because what I loved was it was one of the more important episodes. It was like one of the build-ups to Jailbreak episodes, and all the comments were just people talking about Dodge City, Kansas. Like there were so few comments about the actual episode. And what I loved was
That is a
people
reflection of the
kept...
poor quality episode we produced.
That's very possibly. But what I loved was people kept writing the explanation, and I swear, because every comment basically had it. Like, did people not just scroll? Were they that eager to explain it that they didn't look to see that it had already been explained? I mean, bless everyone who took the time to actually, because even I in the episode was like, I don't know the origins of it, but I know it's a saying and I know roughly what it means, but I didn't know where it came from.
Yeah, it's just people answering, just people being nice. And
Absolutely,
your questions.
but I do love that no one thought to just scroll down and check. They were so excited to tell us that they would put it. So every comment was, "Well, I think you'll find it's a reference to the to blah 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 and blah 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 in Dodge City, Kansas." And it's like every comment was the same, and I get email notifications for the comments, which is how I make sure that I always read them, even when I don't get time to reply. And it was just so funny because I kept thinking, "Oh, I just read that email." No, I didn't. This is a different person saying the same thing.
It's just someone else letting us know.
Yeah. So maybe someone can explain, and just one of you guys take draw straws or something. If somebody could explain the origins of up the wazoo or out the wazoo, because I'm going to assume that's an Australian one. It just sounds Australian.
I would say that's probably a pretty good guess.
This is amazing. We can crowdsource so much stuff now. I could just Google it, Chris. I'm gonna crowdsource that information.
Yeah, but you're going to forget what this discussion was because it'll go up in like a year's time, and you'll be like, "Oh,
I know."
what?
Because we're recording this in what is it? November the 12th. Like, and it's where does this go up? Let me check. This is episode 90, 91? No, it can't be that high up.
I think it's fairly high, but I think it might be 90.
Oh my god, it is 90. That's nuts. Yeah. How have we nearly done 100 of these? No, that can't be right. No, it's 80. We're at 80.
Okay.
Yeah, we're at 80. Yeah, so what is it? It's around the 12th or 16th of January.
Well, let us know.
Let us know
in the comments below.
You know what the thing is? So there I am, all excited about my new system for crowdsourcing information, but it's actually going to take 3 months to get the answer. Google is
you could have looked at. You could have purchased and looked it up in an encyclopedia by then.
I've created the least efficient crowdsourcing system of all time.
People are going to open this episode and be really excited, and then be like, "Why is this episode like 37 minutes long?" And they're going to hear it, and it's going to start with us talking about raisins, and they're going to go, "Oh, fucking, that's why."
Yeah. What I like to think though is that I think roughly they're still getting the same amount of Steven Universe discussion now that they did when the show was only 20 minutes. It's just we are way more comfortable to just piss about. And if you don't like the pissing about, then I am sorry. It's just what we do. It's just we were clearly just more organised in the first few episodes and really focused. And then I think at a certain point we just like that was a lot of work, and we decided just to drop the being focused thing and just do what we want.
But we'll wrap it up now for you. So.
Nah, I reckon we dick about some more, Chris.
I really need the loo, and I've resisted saying it because I looked at the time and I was like, right, it's 30 minutes past. I'll go to the loo soon. It'll be fine. I won't need to point that out on the podcast. And now, 7 minutes later,
I'm eating raisins.
We've contributed nothing, and I still need the loo.
No, that's not true. I talked about universe and universe space travel.
That's true.
And I'm pretty sure we talked about characters being off and on model. And I'm actually eating raisins now. And a caterpillar sleeping bag. And a hot dog duffel bag.
That's true. The hot dog duffel bag conversation was enlightening. Are we ready to wrap it up before? I mean, at this point,
I'm quite happy to keep talking, Chris.
Well, it's fine, but if we go on another minute long, I'm just putting my headphones down, I'm turning off my audio, and I'm going to the loo.
Well,
and you can fill the time. And you'll have to do, my name's Dan Doolan, and my name's Chris Billingham. Like, you'll have to do both voices. That's what will happen.
I really kind of want to do that now.
Right, well, you know what? That's what's going to happen anyway. So rather than stretch it out for a minute and legitimately risk having to change the sheets I'm sat on, I'm gonna go to the loo, and I will. I'll speak to you shortly, listeners. I adore you. This next voice isn't mine. I adore you. Don't feel like I'm abandoning you. I'm abandoning Dan. I want that to be very clear. I feel I've given you guys all I can give, and I feel like you would want me to go to the loo. So I've been Chris Billingham, and I'll see you later.
Bye, Chris.
Mike, I'm stopping recording.
I think Chris has stopped recording. See, I don't know. I think he might pretend that he's going to the loo, but I reckon he's still listening to what I'm saying. He's just told me he's put his headphones down, or putting his headphones down, so he's gone. All right. So, that's been everything for this week, dear listener. I've been Dan Doolan. And I've been Chris Billingham. And that was everything for this week. We'll see you next when we discuss Same Old World. Correction, not Same Old World, Barn Mates. Got the episode title wrong. Better luck next time.
It's the sentiment of